You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The bottom fell out Trump's second term in freefall after 18 months, based on an article by Alex Henderson. The MAGA landslide was a narrative laundering operation, how it belongs to the winners, not the hype machine. Donald Trump won the 2024 popular vote by about 1.5%. That is not a landslide. It is a narrow win inflated into a mandate by people who benefit when weakness is disguised as inevitability. The source material is useful because it punctures the fantasy the actual institutional power sat with Trump and the GOP, but the supposed proof of overwhelming public consent was mostly rhetorical smoke. The landslide claim was political misdirection. Right-wing figures repeated Trump's landslide line because it served a purpose. If a close election can be recast as a historic realignment, then every subsequent abuse of power can be sold as the will of the country rather than the choice of a faction. That is not analysis. It is legitimation. The problem is not just exaggeration. It is deliberate confusion between narrow victory and broad consent, between winning office and receiving a civilizational blessing. Those are not the same thing, and pretending there is how weak majorities start behaving like permanent rule. Democrats helped build the mirage. The article also points to a second engine of distortion, Democratic strategists spending months asking where they went wrong, as if the outcome itself proved a deeper national conversion. That is self-laceration masquerading as strategy. It hands the opposition more narrative power than the vote totals justify. Wallace Wells' sharper point is that their enduring MAGA majority was partly conjured by Republicans and partly by liberals eager to internalize defeat. That is not balance. It is a symmetry of bad faith and panic. One side inflated its strength, the other helped by treating that inflation as fact. The grift has started to fray. The source notes that the MAGA intellectual class is no longer acting like a disciplined vanguard. The podcasters who once sold the movement as destiny are separating from Trump issue by issue. That is what happens when a movement built on status performance meets the actual work of governing. The personalities start drifting as soon as the cost of loyalty rises. Republicans also keep getting clobbered in special elections, which matters more than the celebratory tone of cable and podcast politics. Real power is measured in durable support, administrative capacity, and electoral follow-through, not in performative certainty. The vibe shift fades fast when it runs into ballots. Destructive government, rebranded as momentum. Wallace Wells' phrase about a destructive cacistocracy is the most honest description in the source. The administration is not being misread because it is complex. It is being misread because too many observers keep translating dysfunction into mystique. They treat damage as momentum, and chaos as proof of strength. That is the oldest trick in modern political branding, of making competence look like force, make cruelty look like resolve, and make a narrow coalition appear like a national transformation. The people paying the price are not the pundits trading metaphors. They are the ones governed by the fiction, the real pattern. The broader lesson is simple. American political media keeps mistaking projection for reality and then conferring legitimacy on whoever shouts the loudest about inevitability. Trump did not win a landslide. He won a close election, then rode a cloud of repetition, fear, and strategic self-deception into a larger story about national destiny. That story is the product, the power is the office, and the gap between the two is where the fraud lives. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Kristen, thanks for listening.